everybody, welcome back to the Maple Grove Scripture Reading Podcast. Today we are finishing our reading in the book of Genesis. We're going to do the last three chapters, in chapters 48 through 50. I just want to give a quick recap of what we read yesterday, though, in chapters 46 and 47, just to get us back on the same page today. So in chapter 46, we see Jacob moving to Egypt, traveling to Egypt with his family. And along the way, he has a vision from God telling him not to be afraid. God reassures Jacob of his presence and his promise to bring them back out of the land of Egypt and into the land of Canaan. This chapter also has another genealogy, this time of Jacob's descendants, and it highlights God's faithfulness in growing Jacob's family into a nation. We then move to chapter 47, where we see Joseph presenting his family to Pharaoh, and then they settle in Goshen, which was the best part of the land. They were going to be shepherds there. And we also see Joseph's continued wise administration through the famine, and he's sustaining both Egypt and his family through this. Finally, we see Jacob starting to understand that his time on this earth was coming to a close, and so he requests to be buried in Canaan, and that shows his faith in God's promises. So today we're going to conclude the book of Genesis. We're going to focus on Jacob's blessing and his death, and we'll see Joseph's final acts of faith and forgiveness in there as well. So we start with chapter 48, where Jacob starts with blessing Ephraim and Manasseh. Those are Joseph's sons. Really, it's like he adopts his sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, with the younger Ephraim actually ending up getting the greater blessing. So it's kind of like with Jacob and Esau, where Jacob was going to kind of rule over Esau, and the same thing is happening here with Ephraim and Manasseh. And Joseph's not really having it. Like he would rather have, because he knows that Manasseh's the firstborn, he'd rather have Jacob bless him as the firstborn. But Jacob doesn't do that. He knows what he's doing. And in chapter 48, verse 19, he says his younger brother will be greater than he, and his descendants will become a group of nations. Now, what we see here is we continue to see that we've seen this all throughout Scripture, all throughout so far in the book of Genesis, that God's blessings and plans, they are not bound by what we think or expect them to be. Like oftentimes they are flipped upside down from what we expect. And we've seen this with Jacob. We see this with this blessing of Ephraim and Manasseh, how it's continually just flipped upside down. And oftentimes we see God working through unexpected people in unexpected ways, and that just continues. Okay, in Genesis chapter 49 now, Jacob is giving his blessings to his 12 sons. He gathers them all together, gives them these blessings, but there is really a special emphasis on Judah. This is the same Judah who, did some bad things in chapter 38. This is the fourth son. He was also part of the brothers of Joseph who sold him into slavery. But Judah is told in verse 10 of chapter 49 that the scepter would not depart from him. So the Messiah is going to come from Judah's line. God's long-term plan is unfolding. We see it through the tribes of Israel, and it will culminate in Jesus. We see in Jesus' genealogy that it is through Judah's line from which he comes. We finish it up in chapter 50, and Jacob passes away. We've followed him for quite a while now, but he passes away in Egypt, and Joseph takes his body and buries him in Canaan. Now, after this, his brothers are a little worried again, and they're worried because they think that Joseph, now that his father has died, they think that he's going to take revenge on them. He's in this place of power, and while he has been kind to them, he's shown grace to them since they reunited in Egypt, they're worried that he's going to do something awful to them. And yet he doesn't. We see in verse 20, Joseph says, you know what? You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what's now being done, the saving of many lives. Joseph, we see him put his trust fully in the Lord, even though what he went through was pretty horrific, being sold into slavery, being wrongfully accused of something and then thrown into a prison. But he recognized that this is what God had him there to do. And it was to save his family. It was to save all the Egyptians. It was to save all of these people. And hopefully that encourages us to continue to trust in God and his future deliverance, just like he delivered Joseph. From creation to the patriarchs, Genesis has shown us God's sovereign hand in all of it, in creation, in the human history, and most importantly, in his covenant with his people. We have seen the faith of Abraham. We have seen the deception of Jacob. We have seen Joseph's journey, but they all of them demonstrate God's faithfulness and his ability to use all circumstances for good. We see God's sovereignty through this. We see the faith and obedience of his people. We see a story of forgiveness and reconciliation in Joseph. And we continue to see God's promises that are set forth right there in the Garden of Eden after the fall. And we're going to see those come to completion in Jesus. And we see them unfold throughout the entire Bible. Now we end Genesis with Joseph saying to his brothers as he is about to die, that God will surely come to your aid and take you up out of this land to the land that he promised on oath to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And he dies at the end of the book of Genesis, and we're wrapping it up, and it feels like it's a happy ending story, and yet it's not the end of the story, because we don't know what's happening with the promise. We don't know what's happening with when this Messiah is going to come. We don't know what's going to happen with the Israelites. They are not where they are supposed to be. They are in Egypt, and they're supposed to be in Canaan. So what's going to happen to them? Are they going to make it back to Canaan? Are they going to make it to the place where God has promised that they would become a great nation and that other nations are going to be blessed through them? Well, we're going to have to come back next week and find out, because we're going to start the next book in the Bible, and that is the book of Exodus. And I'll tell you right off the bat that things actually turn sour for the Israelites. If you know the story, you know what happens, but things don't go well for them for a little while. Hey, congratulations. You have made it through one book of the Bible. Only 65 more to go. We're going to keep with this, and we're going to get through it in a year. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey, especially as we finish in Genesis. Tomorrow, you're going to pick it up in Exodus. We will be back on Monday. We'll recap the first few chapters of Exodus and then start diving in to the next level to see what happens to the Israelites. I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you next time. God bless.